If you're not careful, retirement can be a death sentence. But retirement can also be a great blessing. It can be an opportunity to leave old stressors behind, to engage with the world in a more flexible manner. I've watched countless clients experience this remarkable awakening, discovering that the best chapter of their life was ahead of them. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make retirement the most fulfilling chapter of your life. One goal of retirement is to end the stressors so that you can have a simpler life, a slower pace, and ultimately a longer health span. The thing is, that types of things won't happen by accident. Most of us think of retirement as the end of the race, that once we retire, we can stop running, that our stressors will fall away, we won't have to deal with our managers or our commute or quotas. We won't have to deal with schedules and deadlines. The truth is, retiring does get rid of a lot of those things. The problem, and this is what most people are not aware of or don't think about, is that retirement gets rid of a bunch of stressors that you know and know how to deal with, and replaces them with a whole new set of stressors that you don't know and don't know how to deal with. Things like, where will I get my income from? What will my new tax structure look like? How will I pay my bills? But also things like, how will I use my time? And what will my schedule look like? What will my purpose be? If you don't want your retirement to cut short your physical health span, then you need a plan that helps you desensitize to these new stressors, or they will actually feel more stressful and more acute because those old stressors you used to have, well, you had already built up a tolerance for them and strategies to cope with them over many, many years. And these new stressors are going to feel sharper and more acute because you've never dealt with them before. Now, in their chase to prepare for retirement, most retirees focus on the financial preparations, which is the right place to start. The idea would be to craft a plan to deal with the financial stressors so that you can then move on and sort out the non-financial stressors. So for example, once you sort out if you have enough money to retire and how much you can spend once you do retire, then you can go ahead and think about what your days will look like and how you'll spend your time. The problem is that most retirees end up with flimsy financial plans at best, plans that have so many holes in them that they can never move past the financial stressors and into dealing with the non-financial stressors. Plans that are so flimsy that retirement ends up feeling like a burden, where you're constantly looking over your shoulder for the next boogeyman to jump out of the shadows. Just a couple days ago, I was speaking to a well-prepared retiree stuck in this exact position. They had about $3 million in savings, and they had retired a couple of years before meeting me. Yet, even after receiving a professional financial plan which they paid for, and after 2 years of living retired life, they were afraid of using their wealth. They said to me that despite having a professional paid-for financial plan with a Monte Carlo score well in the 90s, they didn't actually feel like they had a plan. They explained to me that the plan had given them the green light to retire, but then when the market corrected during COVID, they felt like they had no idea what to do. And at the time, they had picked up their 40-page booklet and they'd leaf through it, page by page, only to find that they were at the end of the book and there was nothing actionable in there that told them how to navigate the experience they were having. They told me that that experience left them lacking trust in financial institutions, but more so, it left them lacking trust in themselves. And as a result, they were not giving themselves permission to use their wealth. I've seen countless retirees in that position. In fact, you might be in that position yourself, having a financial plan with a good Monte Carlo score, and yet finding yourself not knowing how to act when things are uncertain. For those retirees I was referring to, they found themselves in this exact position. Their plan gave them a quote-unquote success score, and it didn't give them any recommendations. It didn't tell them how much they could spend. It didn't tell them how to triage their finances when things went wrong, which is what landed them in the call speaking with me. They explained to me that they had felt like they were driving a car, but that their only focus during that car trip was not crashing the car. And so while they were focused on avoiding the car crash, they were missing the beautiful view out the driver's side window. They were missing out on the conversations with their partner in the passenger seat of the car. They were stuck in the exact framework I described earlier. So stressed out by the new financial stressors in retirement that they couldn't solve the non-financial stressors in retirement, let alone enjoy this new beautiful chapter of their life. Now, real quick, if you feel like you're stuck avoiding the retirement car crash and you want to learn how to take control of the wheel so that you can really enjoy the journey, head to the description below this video where you can claim a free seat at my complimentary webinar this week, where I'll cover exactly how to optimize your retirement plan. Now, back to the couple that were speaking to me, trying to figure out how to enjoy this new chapter of their life. They needed two things to move past their fears and into the freedom that their savings should have been providing for them. The first thing they needed was to understand what I call their spending speed limit. We use the spending speed limit for all our clients at Peak Financial Planning. And what you see here now on the screen is an example spending speed limit for a hypothetical couple with $3 million in retirement savings. Now, this is hypothetical, so don't go using this for yourself, and this doesn't mimic the person I had been talking to, but I'm just showing it to illustrate the concept of a spending speed limit and how it works. Now, what you see here is this couple's hypothetical guardrails. These guardrails say that as long as this couple's portfolio stays above their lower guardrail here of $2,228,000, then they have a monthly spending speed limit of this number here, $19,667, or an annual spending speed limit of $236,000. And the reason I call this a spending speed limit is because that's exactly how it functions. So let me explain. We all know that there's a very big difference between going 75 in a 70 mile per hour zone versus going 120 in a 70 mile per hour zone, both in terms of the legal consequences, but also the physical consequences. Well, the same is true with your spending speed limit. So if this spending speed limit for this couple were $19,667 per month and they break that by a small amount, well, it's not catastrophic, just like going 75 in the 70 zone is not catastrophic. Specifically, if this couple were to spend, let's say, $350,000 the next year, and therefore break their annual spending speed limit by $114,000. That's a totally different scenario than spending $250,000 and breaking their annual speed limit by $14,000. Now, another reason I like the speed limit comparison is because when driving a car, you might pass through different speed limit zones as you get to your destination. You might go from a 40 speed limit zone to a 70, back to a 40, and then you increase or decrease your speed as a result of your situation. Well, the same holds true for your spending speed limit in retirement. Now, this second sheet here illustrates this exact concept. So you can see here that at age 66 and 67, this couple would have no sources of income other than their portfolio. And as a result, they'd be drawing $236,000 from the portfolio and end up with a withdrawal rate of 7.87% that year. But 4 years later, at ages 71 and 72, once Social Security fully kicks in, and they had begun receiving the full annual benefit from those payments, their portfolio would be responsible for a much smaller amount of their actual income needs. And you can see here that's because they'd have about $100,000 of Social Security income, resulting in them only needing $144,000 in actual withdrawals. And as a result, their withdrawal rate would drop to 4.83%. Now, in effect, they would be downshifting from a higher spending speed limit zone to a lower spending speed limit zone. Now, more so, they could actually predict this would happen because if they, at age 66 and 67, they know that they will receive Social Security in a few years. And as a result of that, they will drop into a lower withdrawal rate zone. Now, this tells me that they could spend more out of their portfolio earlier in retirement because their portfolio would get some breathing room once they passed age 70 and that new income source were to kick in. Now, I generated this hypothetical couple's spending speed limit and guardrails using Income Labs. And on top of everything I've shown so far, Income Labs can run a Monte Carlo test for this scenario. So that's what we can do and see here. And we see that when we run that Monte Carlo test, this hypothetical couple ends up with 93% of their scenarios above plan, meaning they could have made spending adjustments to increase their spending, rather than only 7% of their spending scenarios be below plan, meaning only 7% of the scenarios have a decrease in their spending speed limit, which tells us that this plan might still be too conservative for them. Now, earlier I said they would need two things to move past their fears. Well, the second thing they need is to document these guardrails and speed limit zones the way I have done it in this spreadsheet here, so that they have this as a contingency plan. And that way, when their portfolio corrects, they can reference this material and know whether they need to make a change to keep their retirement on track. Now, I have seen that once people go through the powerful exercises of understanding their spending speed limits and understanding their contingency plans, they finally give themselves permission to explore non-financial things. Things like the best way to use their healthy lifespan, or how to give back to their family, how to spend time with their grandkids, and how to give back to their communities. And it's the non-financial things that really make retirement the best chapter of your life. Yes, we have to first deal with what I call the roadblock stressors. Those are the pesky financial details. But having dealt with those, we can now attend to the spiritual and psychological details that really make up the texture of a beautiful retirement. And through years of presenting this to clients, I've watched it create a really remarkable shift from retirement feeling like a burden to retirement feeling like a blessing. The most rewarding moments in my practice aren't just about showing the numbers. They're about seeing retirees finally feel secure enough to enjoy the wealth they've worked so hard to build. And so that's exactly why I want to give you the chance to come to my free class this week, where I'll be breaking down exactly how you can plan your dream retirement. Now, spots are limited, so click the link below in the description to claim your spot. Thanks as always for your time and attention. See you in the next video.